All right, welcome everybody. If you're joining in, I got a special live stream tonight. We got returning back to us, Major Fred Galvin, served 26 years, United States Marine Corps, served as both an infantry officer and in the reconnaissance community. And if you guys missed the interview with him and what happened to his guys, MARSOC 7 is what they were referred to, I highly encourage you guys to go check out that live stream because it was a very good stream and very eye-opening. But nonetheless, we got Major Fred Galvin back with us tonight to give us a insight on another situations going on with some other MARSOC Marines, colloquially known as the MARSOC 3. So with that being said, sir, welcome back tonight.
It's good to be back, and thanks for having me again, Brent. It was important to I saw a lot of the information that was out there online, and there appears to be some kind of confusion, and I understand that, between a current case that's ongoing, the MARSOC 3. They're termed the MARSOC 3 because there's 3 individuals, 2 Marine gunnery sergeants, and 1 chief petty officer who's a Special Amphibious Reconnaissance Corpsman assigned to the Marine Special Operations Command. And their case, to cover it, it started 3 years ago, and it is still in progress. They were looking to adjudicate this via court-martial this month. Almost 2 weeks ago, this was in court, where they had a motion, and the reason for this court motion, the most recent court motion for Chief Eric Gilmet, who was the first up to bat, was that a Marine Colonel Staff Judge Advocate from Headquarters Marine Corps Judge Advocate Matters, or Judge Advocate Division, he had arranged a meeting with 8 of the Marine Judge Advocates in Camp Lejeune, North Carolina, the base where these MARSOC 3 personnel are currently stationed, and talked about various things, from sexual assault to there's a picture of the individual, Chief Eric Gilmet, his case. So his civilian defense attorney, who's a Marine reservist, as well as his military appointed counsel, defense counsel, basically had this gentleman, Colonel Chris Shaw, who was from Headquarters Marine Corps, come down and make comments to these 8 Marine judge advocates, basically threatening them, stating words to the effect that your boss, could write a good fitness report, that you could think that will promote you, but on the promotion board, the Marine colonel, who's a staff judge advocate, will know who you are, and you will not be protected. It's basically threatening the judge advocates, and that's some of the problems that are in these military court cases, which are very different than civilian court cases. I'm not a sea lawyer. Don't try to pretend to be one. But in the civilian world, you don't have juries that are consisting of individuals that have their careers, their promotion, retention, their next assignments decided by the judge or someone else that's in an authoritarian role, such as in the military, you have a convening authority. In this case, that convening authority is Major General Glenn. He's the commanding general of Marine Special Operations Command. And the jury consists of individuals from inside the Marine Special Operations Command. So this case has been going on for 3 years. It's all we're really looking for is a few things: that it's a fair trial, and that what the Marine Corps teaches from recruit training, or if you're an officer, they teach these 14 leadership traits. And a few of these, point out 3 in particular, is judgment, justice, and decisiveness. We don't ever think that 3 years of having some black cloud hanging over your head is a swift, speedy trial. And I'll get into the specifics of what this case really is all about. So 3 years, actually, to be specific, 37 and a half months ago, on New Year's 2019, these 3 Marine warriors, Gunnery Sergeant Draher, Gunnery Sergeant Negron, and Chief Gilmet, were in Erbil, Iraq, where they were serving with the Marine Special Operations Command. They the command at the time, the Special Operations Task Force that they were assigned to there, had allowed Marines to go off base. They had basically permitted people to have alcohol, although there's a general order number 1. And I'm going to get to that in a second. So I'm not saying everything here was perfect and on the up and up. I don't believe anybody that walks this earth is without sin. And my point is, these guys are alone and everybody else seems to be casting stones at them. So the situation was the command, ever since our case, which we described last week with the MARSOC 7, if they could have found something to condemn us, whether it's Marines drinking alcohol, they would have. But I personally know ever since after our deployment, on all these subsequent deployments, there's alcohol. Marine commanders, those officers turn a blind eye on it. The Marine Corps was founded in a bar called Tun Tavern in Philadelphia. Everyone who's been in the Marine Corps knows this. I'm not encouraging alcohol use, abuse, or fighting, but these things happen. And from the very beginning, the owner of that bar in Tun Tavern, Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, Samuel Nicholas, our first president or first commandant of the Marine Corps, used alcohol to coerce young, colonialists to rise up and fight against the most, lethal power on the face of the world at that time, which was the British Empire. And alcohol is a part of it always has been and always will be a part of the Marine Corps ethos. And I know that sounds, in today's modern zero defects mentality, it sounds deplorable, sounds horrible that somebody like myself would be up here describing alcohol as, let's be honest with ourselves, don't lie. And, so the situation, go back 37 and a half months ago, these 3 men, 2 of them which had been selected for promotion to the next rank, one to a senior chief, one to a master sergeant. They go out was permitted by their command, basically endorsed, and they went to this restaurant. Later on, they went to a bar in celebration of their upcoming promotions. And in that bar, a gentleman, Mr. Rodriguez, who was a contractor with Lockheed Martin, the nation's largest defense contractor, who's over there, makes some comments and is actually thrown out of this establishment by the security. This is all captured on videotape. Once he's thrown out, these 3 men that you see there, these are the MARSOC 3, 2 gunnies and a chief. They went on about their business, settled everything up, and eventually left. What they found is when they went outside, they encountered this gentleman, Mr. Rodriguez, with 7 of his buddies. Now, Mr. Rodriguez doesn't have a call sign like Slim Jim, or he's not some guy with people refer to as tiny. This guy is 275 pounds. I don't want to put a picture of him up there. They're out there in the public space, but he's a beast. A very massive bodybuilder who's bigger than any of these 3 MARSOC raiders. It's just the facts as they were. And ends up getting belligerent with Gunnery Sergeant Draher. He's the African-American you see pictured on the right there on your screen. And moves in to assault him, punches him twice, comes in for a 3rd blow. And the gentleman on the left, Gunnery Sergeant Joshua Negron, steps in as he's trained, since we're all trained in boot camp that Marines only destroy what's necessary. He uses the minimal amount of force, which is taught in special operations, uses 1 punch, punches Mr. Rodriguez in the face. Mr. Rodriguez fell to the ground, hit his head, had a gash on his head, which the gentleman in the center, Chief Gilmet, being a special operations medic, goes immediately in, treats him, and they report the situation immediately. They drive him back to the base. They continue to care for him. And the situation, not due to these men's malice or negligence, but Mr. Rodriguez choked on his vomit and ended up dying after he was evacuated to Landstuhl, Germany, to a military treatment facility there. 3 days later is when he died. So the situation is very unfortunate. An individual died. That's why it's always expected that there has to be some kind of accountability. Somebody's got to pay. But the thing is let's talk about it. If you were in any major city or anywhere for that matter in the United States, someone came up to assault you, someone who's physically stronger than you came up to assault you or someone in your family, do you not have the right to defend? I'm not talking with a weapon. They didn't use a weapon. They didn't, kick somebody. They didn't use anything extreme. No steel pipe or anything like that. It was one blow to the face in defense. And you see, Josh Negron is not somebody that's has a post-military career in professional wrestling. Mr. Rodriguez is much, much larger than he is. He defended his mate. So let's talk about. There's a picture of Josh, Gunnery Sergeant Negron. So let's just talk about a couple of the what ifs. What if their Gunnery Sergeant Negron had not stepped in and he just sat back and allowed, his fellow Marine to be pummeled into the dirt by this massive beast, 275 pounds? What if, is that the signal that the Marine Corps is trying to send here, that, hey, just let your fellow buddy get beat up or run away? Is that what we're recommending? No, that is not what we're ever taught to do. Brent, you've been in combat, and we understand, when we go to a place like in Iraq at that time, lawyers come out with these standing rules of engagements, and some of those, as a written state, if you are attacked or a member of your force is attacked, you're not like okay to do this, but it says you are obligated to respond in kind, not to sit on your hands or use foul language or run away. You are obligated to respond in kind. And as the attorneys tell you, if you do not, you will be charged. So when this is programmed and it's registered in our heads that that's what we're supposed to do, what else are we supposed to do if somebody in your unit is attacked? So, here's another option. What if this case had already been adjudicated and these three Marines and a corpsman from MARSOC were locked up and imprisoned for the charge, which is homicide? That carries a punishment. The max punishment is death. Believe it or not, that's still on the books in the U.S. military. If you don't believe it, look up Major Hassan Nadal, who is that whack job former major who killed the service members down at Fort Hood, who's awaiting the death penalty. They've sentenced him to death, and that will likely occur. When, I don't know. But that's the max punishment for the accusations here. But let's just say that these three men had already been convicted and are sitting, in Fort Leavenworth for either for life or some sentence. So there's a picture of Gunnery Sergeant Danny Draher, who was assaulted. Here's a guy that he didn't even fight back. He was trying to de-escalate this and bring the situation down. He was punched in the face twice. Mr. Rodriguez was coming in a third time, but yet he is being charged also for manslaughter. That's how, just like in the case of the MARSOC 7, where Congressman Walter Jones had said this went too far, and this case is going on too far. I'm going to explain a few more of the details here in just a minute. But let's get back to saying, what if these men were already serving in prison? What does that send the signal to everybody else that's currently or in the future will serve in the U.S. military, that if you get attacked, don't fight back? To me, that's what signal it sends, is you basically, if these men are convicted for self-defense, that they have no right to self-defense, and that our service members are basically helpless in a situation where somebody can come up to them physically stronger and beat them, possibly beat them into the ground. So the current events, we thought Tuesday of a week, basically a week and a half ago, Chief Gilmet's case was at trial, and they were bringing up this issue of this unlawful command influence. And the judge dismissed the case. That's a legal term, which they didn't use in our case, in MARSOC 7 case. But they dismissed this case with prejudice, saying that there is evidence that unlawful command influence was exerted in this case by Colonel Shaw, who went down to Camp Lejeune, North Carolina, and made those statements. And thank God that we have the courage of those 8 Marine staff judge advocates that were sitting in on that brief. They all wrote affidavits and said this is exactly what Colonel Shaw had said. And so after that matter was declared by the judge a week and a half ago, the government is filing an appeal. So this case didn't end in victory. It's not over. They're not in the clear. We have a situation which is continuing on. And just recently here this last Thursday, the attorneys for Gunnery Sergeant Draher and Gunnery Sergeant Negron they went to court in their case, and they have their lawyers have basically quit, their defense attorneys. In Gunnery Sergeant Negron's case, Gunnery Sergeant Negron's civilian defense attorney I mentioned before is a Marine reservist. They feel threatened that if I continue on defending their clients with rigor, that it's going to affect their promotion, even in the reserves. So that here the lawyers are voluntarily backing out, and that now it's resulted in Gunnery Sergeant Negron not having any legal representation whatsoever. So he's out there having to find this. So this is a very serious situation. As I said, the consequences literally are life and death. It's gone on for 3 years, and some of the consequences that have already happened is all 3 of these gentlemen have been relieved of their positions. They've had all their proficiency pay for which equal over $1,000 a month for basic airborne, military free fall, their dive pay, demolition pay, and their special duty assignment pay. All that has been stopped for over 3 years. So, a lot of young Marines don't always, have a savings plan, but once they have kids and a family, they definitely are saving. And that's, after this stage, that's money is normally planned for a college education for their children. Even if they win and they reclaim that, they don't reclaim it with interest or what that could have done in the stock market. They just get to go back to work. They have to also answer questions if they ever have any, post-military career in any type of national security position, where they have to fill out an SF, I think it's SF 86 security form if they've ever had their security clearance suspended or revoked, and they can answer that and explain why it was and that it was restored. But bottom line, it's checking the block yes that you have makes you very less competitive, brings up a lot of questions, raises eyebrows, and there's a lot of people who have served and have clearances, and all of a sudden that doesn't just make your military career basically finished, but your post-military career is affected. And these individuals who've all done the same, guys in MARSOC have been drinking, commanders at MARSOC, heavily drinking. I know, and I'm not going to name names here or try to shame people, but they've been out there drinking, drunk, habitually in combat. So where are these leaders standing up for their guys, saying, "Hey, enough is enough"? I mean, these are all of the men that I served with who are in my peer group are currently in the upper echelons at MARSOC, and they're allowing this to go on. That's one of our core leadership traits is integrity, and no one is standing up for these men. They've basically been shunned, and everybody's turned their backs on them. That's why I've been, for the last 3 years, one of the Marines who I served with over in Okinawa before the war had started, a real warrior who's in a unit that I won't describe. He let me know as soon as this came to his attention, which was over 3 years ago, and it took immediate action to make sure these Marines understood their rights, as Marines in Corpsmen, what those rights were, and that just like they say in your rights, you have a right to an attorney. I strongly encourage them to seek legal representation, because these are not some minor offense like seven cans of beer in the barracks and you can only have 6. This is something very serious. So we got them attorneys, lined them up with United American Patriots, which is a legal defense fund. And as I've seen, unfortunately, over the years, the many years, 15 years I've had our case happen, that several others, unfortunately, have had to plead out, and because they just financially could not go on, and it normally ends up in their professional destruction. So that's why last week when Brent described his case, I've been advocating for these three gentlemen for the past 3 years, and these are different cases. Ours was the MARSOC 7. Theirs is the MARSOC 3. Ours was adjudicated. Theirs is currently in progress. And the consequences are very severe. All three of these gentlemen are married with children. And having a case continue this long with this kind of a black cloud, this uncertainty, whether their daddy's going to go to jail, whether their wife is going to be able to, pay the bills, how this is all going to work out. And just this type of unlawful command influence being there. That's why we have asked listeners over the past 3 years in 2 ways that they can help. And that is going online very quickly, going www.congress.gov/connect. You can enter your state. It'll pop up your members of Congress. You have 2 senators at the U.S. congressional level, and then 1 district representative. Have them, I recommend, contact Congressman Louis Gohmert of Texas's office. His military legislative assistant is Derek Miller. You can find that information right there at that website that I just read off. And they have been championing this case. Urge your members of Congress to advocate and join the Congressman Louis Gohmert, and he has a Justice for Warriors caucus, and have them dismiss this case. If enough people contact their congressman and let them know that they will not tolerate this, this is a self-defense case, and this case needs to be dismissed. The second thing that I request, and I'm not on the board, I've never been affiliated with United American Patriots, but if you go to www.uap.org, you can donate to the United American Patriots. That is a legal defense fund. You can specify that you want it to support the MARSOC 3. And as the case continues on, again, this is not some lesser offense case. This is a capital offense case. When it continues to drag on, the government does things just like we currently do, and in the Reagan administration, you impose costs on your enemies and adversaries, and you just allow them to slowly bleed out. And that's currently what's going on with these 3 men. Is very difficult to continue to endure unless you have these resources. And normally, gunnery sergeants and a chief in our military don't have the financial wherewithal to pay. If you look at Eddie Gallagher's case, the Navy SEAL, just one of his attorneys' legal fee was over $1 million, and he had a team of them. So I ask that you look into this case, the MARSOC 3, educate, find out all there is to know about it, and contact your members of Congress. Support these Marines and corpsmen financially so that this type of abuse ends. This case needs to be dismissed. And Brent, I'd like to know any kind of questions that you or your listeners have. Sorry, we just had a little bit of difficulty. One of the things that I also wanted to discuss, last week we discussed the case that I was involved in. I was a commanding officer of the Marine Special Operations Task Force that was deployed into Afghanistan. Again, a completely separate case. We went into a war crimes trial. They accused us of wounding 50 and killing 19 alleged Afghan civilians. And they said they're men, women, children. They said that we were drunk, that we were in tanks, and that we dismounted and went door to door shooting and killing, and then we fled. And they said we came back to cover up the scene and threaten these reporters by taking their cameras. Couldn't have been further from the truth. This started at 9 o'clock in the morning, broad daylight. Wasn't some limited visibility at night, fog of war. That's what the government spun it in the courtroom. They'd constantly state these things when the media was in the courtroom. And then as we'd go for our defense and any witness that had exculpatory evidence, they would say, we're going to classified session. They'd move the media out. Why am I discussing this is a lot of you have put things out there online saying that, you know, there is some confusion between these two cases. Well, some of the similarities that I'd like to talk about is we were ambushed, just like Galvin Negron, did what he did because his fellow Marine, Gunny Draher, was ambushed. A force larger than Gunny Draher came in, to attack him. 7 of his buddies were surrounding him, much like the situation we were in 2007 on the Afghan-Pakistan border. We fought back. We had a car bomb detonate on us, shot out on one side of the road, shot out on the other side of the road. They dragged a vehicle across the road to prevent our escape. They're shooting sniper fire at us. Complex ambush, very coordinated. And as soon as we got back, then the allegations came out that, we had murdered all these civilians. Everybody's like, well, that's terrible. And I'm glad you went to court and, it's over. But what happened in that court is information warfare, which is not allowed to be played out on the American public. We expect our enemies to do what they did that day and to spin it and to make it appear that, we are in fact, killing innocent civilians. But for that to be perpetuated and that to be known, for me to take a polygraph and all of the 30 Marines and the translator on our patrol state the same facts, and that to be known by the convening authority, and for the convening authority to manipulate that information in a court and remove the press every time there was exculpatory evidence, that is information warfare. That is illegal to do against your own personnel in uniform, to do against the people of the United States. That happened. That is what is contained in this book here, A Few Bad Men. You can go on Amazon right now and order the book, A Few Bad Men. I state this because this book explains where all the bodies are buried. This book is radioactive. I've already received a notification from an individual in this book. It's not even published yet. This is my advanced copy. Those individuals know what they did, and they don't want this to come out. I was discouraged from having it being released. So this type of strong arm tactic, there's no place for this in the United States of America. That is called coercion. That is called censorship, and it's unlawful in the United States military. So I recommend that you become aware of what happened in our case, that this likely will happen in their case unless America says, hey, this has gone, like Congressman Walter Jones stood up for us in our case and said, this has gone too far. I recommend that you pre-order this book. As the publisher said, it's going to be likely, if you don't pre-order it, there will be supply problems once it comes out. And the importance of ordering this is this will come out before all 3 of these gentlemen's court-martial trials. And when you see the tactics, the unethical tactics that were used, one of these Marines in our own patrol, one of our own MARSOC Marines, was threatened by the government, and he actually signed, he stated this in court, and this has all been declassified. Since 2011, I fought for 11 years to get this declassified. It took 9 times the normal time to get through the Department of Defense's Office of Pre-Publication Security Review, and this is all out. This is a very radioactive book. The military is not keen on this coming out and explaining their abuse of authority. And this is something that is likely able to happen to these 3 good men by bad other people wearing the same uniform if people don't stand up, don't take action, don't contact their congressman, allow these Marines and corpsmen to not have the financial wherewithal to continue on and have their careers and their lives shattered. So I really do encourage everyone to stand up, take an active stand, read their game plan. That's what that book entails. I was not the Navy SEAL that was on the Bin Laden raid and left as soon as I could to write a book. That I continued to serve 7 more years. Filed for Freedom of Information Act to get everything declassified, and it took 11 years to do that, and an exceptionally long period of time to get it security reviewed. But this is all declassified. When you read what those individuals stated in their sworn testimony, and which they thought would be protected by the convening authority, and how this matter was intentionally covered up, it's a disgusting disgrace. And this can easily happen with the same type. I mean, we're talking Marines in the same command, Marine Special Operations Command. The only thing that's happened now is this has been a closed loop. So once you get into the Marine Special Operations Command, you really don't get out. It was different in our era, where, as a matter of fact, our entire trial, the jury, they call them panel members in the military, they were all from outside of MARSOC. Right now, everyone inside of MARSOC is going to be the ones, again, it's a closed loop system. So if they want to be retained, promoted, they're looking for their next assignment, it's cooperate and graduate. And that type of coercion, that type of pressure from above is not healthy. And that's not what goes on in inside America, and not in the civilian court system. It goes on in places like Tehran or Pyongyang, where, of course, trials are like that are basically one-sided. So, and I'm having some issues there. It appears Brent's not on the line right now, and I can try to address any kind of questions that some of the listeners may have in this. So looking here, if somebody has any type of specific questions they want to know regarding the MARSOC 3 case, that's what this session of the podcast is all about, and be happy to answer those. There's someone mentioned an issue about recruiting, and I'm not a current recruiter. I never was, but I don't know the recruiting or manning numbers in either the Marine Corps or MARSOC. All I do know is whenever there's a war that's usually very favorable, young Americans really want to run out and serve their country and actually prove themselves in battle, and that's not currently the case. So I honestly couldn't tell you how it is. So yes, individuals just asked, did MARSOC 3 take my advice in getting a lawyer from the get-go? And they did. So there was a podcast that was on yesterday from a gentleman on LinkedIn, also a Marine veteran, and it had Colby Vokey, who is the attorney for Chief Eric Gilmet. And if you web search, I'm sure if you go on and Google and type in Hiram, Hiram, who is the host, and you type in Colby, Colby, Vokey, Vokey, you can look at that podcast. Colby, as I stated, is the attorney for Chief. They just had one of their court sessions a week and a half ago, where the case was dismissed with prejudice, and the government is appealing that. And he gives a current update of that case and all of the legal technical points in there. I was also on portions of that podcast to compare many of the aspects from the case that I was in and other cases since. As many of your listeners know, there was a situation that occurred in 2011, 2012 timeframe with the sniper platoon from 3rd Battalion, 2nd Marines out of Camp Lejeune, North Carolina, where they killed some of the Taliban fighters, and then subsequently took a piss on them, on their dead bodies. And then they posted that on a video online. Stupid mistake. And than the Commandant of the Marine Corps. I mean, we're talking young Marines, early 20s, compared to the Commandant of the Marine Corps. They had twice the amount of time in service, in uniform, with over 40 years in service than these guys did walking upright in the world. And the Commandant of the Marine Corps at that time, General Amos, you may recognize him on this book. General Amos used unlawful command influence, and in the U.S. Navy and Marine Corps Court of Appeals in 2017, I have to paraphrase the words, but they found an unusually large amount of unlawful command influence in General Amos, the Commandant of the Marine Corps, trying to influence that case where the convening authority originally was Lieutenant General Waldhauser, and Lieutenant General Waldhauser at the time, as the convening authority, wrote a sworn letter stating that General Amos ordered him to I want those Marines crushed. So when we have this type of unlawful command influence from the most senior Marine general, in this case the Commandant of the Marine Corps, and this was not long ago, he was just a few commandants ago, but they've stated that this is the mortal sin of the military, and I truly do believe that with the military justice system, when you have a legal system that there is no justice, then we're how are we supposed to ensure that those men and women who have answered their country's call get a fair shake? So anyway, if there's any other questions, you want to put those in the chat block, I'd be happy to answer that. And I know Brent is having some technical difficulties, so please feel free to put up any kind of questions that you have regarding this, and would appreciate if those listeners on there who are concerned about this, who realize that the big issue is the number one employer in the United States is not Amazon, it's not Walmart. If you combine those two together, up until just recently, the military outnumbers Amazon and Walmart combined until just recently. So that's when you factor in all those active reserve contractors, civilians, those that are impacted by this type of unlawful command influence. That's a lot of Americans. And Amazon can't put you on bread and water. Walmart can't sentence you to life in jail. You're not going to be, the max punishment under the Uniform Code of Military Justice is death still. So the consequences are much more severe. So I see some things there in the chat block about Canada, and obviously there's a lot of stuff in the media right now going on with what's going on in Canada, but I'm talking about what's going on presently in our military. And when our military leaders are only doing what our promotion system is based on, if the two people above you provide a glamorous fitness report, and if you're in favor by those two above you, then you're likely to get promoted. As long as you do your education and physical fitness, you're going to get promoted. And so people are basically doing what their senior leadership want, in complete disregard, in most cases, of what those their troops that they're in charge of, how they're impacted by any of this. We have great leaders in the Marine Corps, but just like the title of the book, a few bad men have affected the entire bunch. So it's anyway, this is the Corps waiting until they get close to retirement to see if they can go quietly into the night. Actually, I don't know what the Marine Corps is planning to do, but all these gentlemen are in their right on the cusp of retiring, and one of them is actually retirement eligible. So the other two, by the time their cases go to a trial, most likely, I don't know if in this type of case the government calls it sanctuary. I think that's used with the reserve component, but normally, they should all hit their 20 years. The ironic situation in the case I was involved in, when we went to trial in 2008, I had enlisted in the Marine Corps originally in 1987. So I was by the time the trial occurred, I was beyond my 20 years. So, it's a very serious thing if, people get kicked out with a dishonorable discharge and they don't have a pension. I'm not the lawyer. I don't know how that whole thing would end. I never even thought about having a career in the Marine Corps, even myself, after 26 years. But any calculator asked the attorney the question, what happened? But so I don't honestly know if they can kick them out without pardon my technical terms, without a pot to piss in any type of retirement. But I know they can give them a derogatory type of a discharge, and that can affect many, if not all, of their Veterans Administration retirement benefits. So, somebody's there talking about the military having dismissed large numbers. I don't know the exact numbers of service members for refusing to take the vaccine, and that's exactly what I'm talking about. Is this affects? You don't hear of people, having an adverse discharge from their employer and terminated because they didn't get the vaccine. This affects. It's a very authoritarian system, and it's one that I believe. The purpose of writing this book, I believe we can change this. I believe that there needs to be accountability for individuals that have dishonored the system. This isn't even my opinion. When it gets into the courtroom trial, it's just what these individuals stated under sworn testimony that's now been declassified. So no longer are they protected by classifying this. The Security Classification Guide prohibits classifying anything for the sole purpose of keeping someone from embarrassment, but that's exactly what occurred. So, but anyway, yes, it's a very severe system, and I believe we can change things when enough of the people of the United States stand up and say, hey, we will not tolerate this. And if you don't take any action, Congressman or Congresswoman, we're going to vote you out. But this has to be something that the people become aware of. It's uncovered, and that's what the purpose of this book is, and that our military promotion system will no longer promote individuals simply on the basis of if their next two senior officers above them favor them. It has no input from the ranks. So anyway, it's CBS breaking news. I'm not seeing that live, that Russia's invading Ukraine. We have a large problem on our hands in our military, and if we, just like you saw last August, cannot fight and win, and we end up retreating from a place like Afghanistan where they're using Russian-made weapons from 1947 and homemade explosives and wearing sandals, and we retreated. We've got some serious problems, and there's been no accountability there. But there needs to be. The American people need to get organized and to take action and to demand that these types of abuses wake up. No, this did not happen on a question. Did this happen on an NCO mess night? That was not the case. These MARSOC didn't have any NCO mess night in Iraq. So anyway, if there's any other types of questions, please put them there in the text box. So one of the individuals' questions about there regarding to the command, and that's why I originally had mentioned previously, is where is their command saying, hey, I've done this, we've all done this, and before you prosecute these men, you're going to go through me. Like I said, all the senior officer ranks in MARSOC are filled by my peer group, and I challenge all of them to stand up to the commanding general or to the commandant of the Marine Corps or to the commander of the U.S. Special Operations Command and say, this has gone on too far. We are all hypocritical leaders, and we have no business leading if we have done the same, if not worse. So these guys, these MARSOC 3, they all enlisted as young Americans, answered their country's call, served, year after year for nearly 2 decades now, throughout the entire combat, phases in Iraq and Afghanistan and all kinds of places in between. And these are the real warriors, not, these people impersonating to be leaders and can't stand up. That's what I'm saying. Where are our leaders right now? Since we saw this situation go on last August in Afghanistan with the embarrassing withdrawal, a lot of people have been requesting for accountability. But this case has gone on for 3 years and it hasn't hit the news at all, the mainstream news. So there's individuals out there listening to this that may have those contacts with mainstream news. And I realize that a lot of producers and editors, this isn't something that affects them or their families, and they don't want to cover it. But, this is something that affects America's largest employer, and it should matter. But it's unfortunately that it doesn't. Maybe some people think that the military is, just a bunch of misfits. I don't know the reasoning, but it's something that the mainstream media is out of favor and unfortunately won't cover when this affects so many in our population in America. It's not, people say it's just less than 1%. Well, it's the largest employer. So anyway, let's see questions there. Yeah, I agree with a lot of what you're saying in the text box. So case was the government's case that they were shit-faced and dangerous. I don't believe that's coming out, but just like in our case with the MARSOC 7, I think they're going to try to use that shell game, bring in the media and blah 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 that we have a deceased here, a corpse, someone died, somebody needs to be responsible, these Marines are guilty, make some illusions that this is unprofessional. Senior Marines don't do this. And they tried to cover it up, blah, blah, blah. They were doing things they know they shouldn't have done, and then kick the media out and start talking about this, pardon the technical terms again, but this chicken shit about drinking and being off base and doing that stuff. And that's completely separate. It's stuff that everyone inside the command is guilty of. And that's what I'm saying is before you start casting stones, look at the big plank in your own eye before you start trying to condemn these men for doing things that you're far more guilty of. People in glass houses should be chucking stones here. So anyway, it seems like the text box are kind of wrapping up, and we've been here at the 50-minute mark. So unless there's any last minute questions that you have, I'll get ready to wrap this up here. Yeah, somebody states the Marine Corps is founded in a brewery tavern. Come on, really? That's the point we were all making. Yeah, absolutely support you. So anyway, I appreciate everybody tuning in, and really do urge you to make yourself aware of these facts. Get the word out. I've posted some stuff just this weekend on social media using my name there, Fred Galvin, to make people aware of this book. And I've already, like I said, been discouraged. I take that as a threat that people don't want this book to come out. So, but this book describes in detail, in using incontrovertible facts, what happened in our case that's illegal, and what likely could happen in the case of these 3 men who are currently serving their country. Ask you to contact your members of Congress, take action, donate to the United American Patriots, and support those who have committed themselves for over 2 decades to fight in our country. So anyway, I appreciate very much this opportunity, and I will be signing off here. Thank you very much.